George sir, can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yep.
Please try it, sir.
It still says failed to start the video camera. Please select another video. That didn't happen to me before. That's very strange. Maybe I will exit and join again.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Daroda.
Yeah, I have the same issue.
Adul. Adul.
Hello, sir.
സാറിന്റെ വീഡിയോ ഓപ്പൺ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല എന്ന് സാർ പറയുന്നു.
സാർ ഇപ്പൊ ഓക്കെ അല്ലേ? ഞാൻ അലോ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്.
അലോ ചെയ്യൂ, സാറിന് അലോ ചെയ്യൂ.
അലോ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് സാർ.
Then what is the problem?
The co-host has asked you to start video. Yeah, start my video, but still not opening. That's very strange because it hasn't happened before. First time.
Yeah. Yesterday also it went on well. No issues yesterday. Yeah.
I've been using it regularly, but not understanding what it is. I have restarted, but maybe I'll have to restart my computer. I'm not sure.
By the time, shall we begin, sir?
I need to sort my video first.
Yeah.
Video permission.
Video permission is already given, but the sir is not able to open his video. That is a problem. Yeah.
Maybe leave and then go and then come back in.
Restart.
Yeah.
Restart computer. Message in.
Okay, have you back and then come back in?
Yeah. I did that.
And then then restart.
Restart the computer.
Yeah.
Because it never happened before. Yeah. Just hold on for a few minutes. I will restart my computer because it didn't happen
Okay.
before.
No issue.
First
Take
time.
your own time. Yeah. Father, Father Johnson. Johnson, acha?
Yes, I'm
Father,
here.
yeah. Our guests have
Yes,
already joined, but Joshi sir is
yes, yes.
having some technical issue in opening his video. So he is
Yeah,
trying to restart his computer. Let us wait
yeah,
for 2 minutes.
yeah,
He will be back soon.
yeah, yeah. Sure.
I just wanted to join the choir and sing. Anyway, you guys wanted to sing. Sing.
Cuma sakit gitu kan. Cuma gini
Shashi sir,
Yes, yes.
did you join?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think we can.
നീ
എന്ത് കുണ്ടിയാണ് ഹലോ
Sir, the unwanted talks are coming. Could you please inform the other participants to mute?
Yeah, I think the host.
Correct. Can you see me and hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so sorry. It never happened before. I had to restart and took a bit of time.
No issues.
Okay, sir.
These
It's
are all
okay, sir.
technical matters. Now we can see you, and you are audible too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
the
Yes, sir.
slides.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
Father,
Let's start.
Father, yeah. Let us begin. Dr. Joshi sir, who is our presenter today, and Dr. Kavita Manoj madam, our moderator today, have already joined. This is Dr. Sujatha Kumar, faculty coordinator, welcoming you all to the second day of the Avancer webinar series 2020, being hosted by Department of Social Work, St. Joseph's College, Pilathara, Kannur, Kerala. Today we will be dealing with the second sub-theme of our webinar. We had a fruitful session yesterday, and we hope that today also we will have a fruitful discussion in this platform. Let me invite Ms. Elimol to take over.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Let us not give up in this epidemic of COVID-19. A very warm good evening to one and all. Welcome to the second day of our webinar series hosted by Department of Social Work, St. Joseph College, Pilatra. Today's theme is mental health challenges of adolescents and youth during the COVID-19 and the strengthening social support. We are most grateful for the rapt attention from your side. I am confident that this presentation will be fruitful for you all. I request all who are attending this webinar except the presenter and the moderator to mute your mic and switch off your video for the better clarity. Let us begin the session. I request Ms. Dina Angel for the welcome address. Over to you, Dina.
A very warm good evening to one and all. Honorable guests, respected principal, vice principal, teachers, and dear participants. I am very pleased to welcome you all for the Avancer webinar series 2020. Our theme for today is mental health challenges of adolescents and youth during COVID-19 and strengthening social support. Dr. Josie K. Thomas, Family Support Consultant at Southwest Healthcare Mental Health Services, Australia, is our presenter today. Dr. Josie K. Thomas has completed his MSW from Indoor School of Social Work and secured his PhD in Mental Health Social Work from Monash University. Thank you, sir, for your presence, and I cordially welcome you for this webinar. Now, I welcome Dr. Kavita Manoj, Kawal Project Consultant, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore, who is the moderator of today's session. Dr. Kavita Manoj has completed her post-graduation in social work from Rajagiri College, and she has a PhD in psychiatric social work on the topic Psychosocial Profile of Children of Rehabilitated Devdasis from NIMHANS. Thank you, ma'am, for your presence, and I welcome you for this webinar. I welcome our beloved principal, Dr. K.C. Muralidharan, to this session, who has been guiding us in all our academic matters and is very keen in the professional development activities for the students. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome our respected Vice Principal and Head of Social Work Department, Father Johnson Simeti. We are very happy that Father is always with us in all our activities and is motivating us in organizing innovative programs. I welcome you, Father. Our teachers are always guiding us in all our endeavors and are very much particular in strengthening our knowledge and skill base. We are grateful to them. I welcome all teachers. Let me also welcome all our esteemed participants from various colleges and institutions and my fellow students. Your participation would help us to unite together, and the energy we create through this allows us to achieve our individual and group goals. We are grateful to have you all for this webinar and welcome you all. On behalf of St. Joseph's College, Pilatra, once again, I welcome you all for this today's session. Thank you.
Very good evening. Thank you, Dina. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, continue, please.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Let me introduce today's presenter, Dr. Josie K. Thomas, the Family Support Consultant of Southwest Healthcare Mental Health Service, Australia. Sir, we all are eagerly waiting for your words, and I welcome you, sir.
Is Dr. Kavita, are you going to say something before or?
Yeah, maybe I'll just take 5 minutes. Yeah, I'll just take 5 minutes. Very good evening to all, one and all. First and foremost, let me appreciate St. Joseph's Pilatra College, Department of Social Work, for organizing such a webinar. And just to give a brief introduction to the entire topic today. In late December 2019, patients of Wuhan, China reported having viral pneumonia due to unknown microbial infection. A new coronavirus was subsequently identified. And in January 2020, the World Health Organization announced that the emergence of new coronavirus was a public health emergency in international concern. Infectious diseases have become one of the major threats to global public health in the 21st century. Such diseases impact physical, psychological, and social health of individuals.
Madam, you are muted. I think your mic is not on. Kavita, madam.
Can you hear now?
Yeah. Now it is audible. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The novel coronavirus has introduced an unprecedented degree of unpredictability and disruption, impacting day-to-day functioning in both large and small ways for all people across the world. Various studies conducted on the topic suggest that people exposed to coronavirus disease and serious imperative containment measures could be psychologically distressing. Mental health symptoms may have been common during COVID-19 outbreak among the general population, especially among the infected individuals, people with suspected infection, and also people who were in contact with the COVID-19 patients. Measures such as quarantine and delays in returning to work were also associated with mental health among the public as well as among the youth. And the adolescent, the total change in the routine has affected the adolescent invariably. For a number of families, lockdown created changes in everyday routine and financial hardships. The working community got anxious and stressed because of losing jobs. For the other families, it could remain raising anxious children, anxiety in children, tensions in parenting, relationships, or general fear. Finding the new normal can be challenging as schools and daycares are closed with an end-to-end phase still unknown. UN warns that the damage of COVID-19 on children and adolescents could be due to falling into poverty, threats of survival and health, exacerbating learning crisis, and risk for child safety. Today, we have Dr. Josie Thomas, an eminent academician and family support consultant at South Wales Healthcare Mental Health Service Victoria, to talk to us on the topic, mental health challenges of adolescent and youth during the COVID and strengthening the social support. Dr. Josie Thomas will be speaking to us on the impact of COVID in human development, impact of abuse and maltreatment on children and later on their lives, COVID-19 and its impact on mental health of youth and adults, the need of strengthening social system, and what can be done. The session will be for 35 minutes, followed by question and answer session. Over to Dr. Josie Thomas for the session.
Thank you, Dr. Kavita. Let me screen share. Can it be seen now?
Yes. Yes,
sir.
Okay. Is it okay to go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kavita. Welcome. Good evening, everyone. From Australia, it's good night here. It's 10:50 p.m. night. And thank you, Pilatra St. Joseph's College, for inviting me, for giving me an opportunity to present, and especially my schoolmate, Miss Cicely James. She was also my immediate junior in my master's. Like someone introduced me, initially I will talk about me briefly. Like the introducer talked, I did my master's from Indoor School of Social Work, and then I worked for about 3 years in community development, including 2 years in Kerala. And then I went on to do my MPhil degree in psychiatric social work from Central Institute of Psychiatry for 2 years. And then I came back to Kerala, worked in a mental health hospital for about 2 years. most of you would know, there's a hospital in Toruguda, Sankla Hospital. And then I worked for about 9 years in Hyderabad. So I have been working in the social work field for about over 25 years now. So half of them were in India, I think about 13 years, and I have been in Australia for 13 years. So half of it there. So I have seen both the practices. And then I did my PhD from Monash University in Melbourne. I finished in 2018. And then I have been, and then, so my first 10 years, I worked in child protection in the Department of Health and Human Services in the government. There are two governments. I first worked in South Australian state and then 6 years in the Victorian state. And then after submitting my thesis, I thought I will come back to mental health. So I started working in mental health. Yeah, it's about 3 years now. So I work as a family support consultant. That means I do the workforce capacity building, training, and providing consultations in family focused practice. I focus on children and families. This is a bit of my background. So I worked and lived in few states in India. So I know I know there are quite a few who would have joined today from other states as well. So I probably will continue in English, I think. I can speak in Malayalam, but it looks like, I attended most part of the session yesterday and missed the first half an hour, but it was good that I attended because I think there was a bit of communication. I remember you told me to talk about adult, but my focus, my area of interest is children and families. But then I realized Dr. Jayaprakash has already covered the children and adolescents yesterday. Otherwise, it would have been a repetition today. So I had to work extra today, focusing on. So you can see the topic. I have slightly modified it. Could everyone mute your mic? That would be great.
Yeah, that would be better.
But I think someone can be scratching somewhere, so it's coming on to the presentation. It looks like if somebody. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible. Can I request all of you to please mute yourself as well as please don't scribble on the screen. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how much you have heard. So I had to slightly modify the topic. So it was adolescents and youth, but then realizing yesterday, and Dr. Jayaprakash has covered it, so I have slightly changed it to youth and adults. And I think if you look at the three seminars, the three sessions, the adults were missed out. So today I have changed it and modified to include the adults. So this is the topic. So if we go on to, yeah, so this would be the outline. Is there any way we can remove this scribbling on the screen?
Yes, we also do not know who is doing that, sir.
Okay, right.
You can make it a presentation.
The full, yeah, that's right. Full. Is that better now? Is it better, bigger now, or?
Yeah, it is better now.
Can be readable?
Yeah, it's readable.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so this is the outline. Dr. Kavita has already mentioned about it. Yeah, I'll talk briefly about giving an introduction and then a background. Then I want to talk about, before going into COVID or anything, even the perspective of COVID, the briefly about the human development, how the child develops and, and get into adulthood. And then I will talk about the child abuse and maltreatment and its impact on children's mental health and later in adult life. And then COVID-19 and its impact on mental health of the youth and adults. And then the need for strengthening social support system and what we can do. And then, and to the end of it, we can have some interactive session. Yeah, I thought I would give a definition about mental. I remember somebody was asking yesterday about mental health and emotional health. So I think it's good to have a definition what mental health means, because generally we have a thinking that when we talk about mental health, it implies mental illness, but it is not so, because mental health is a positive thing that one needs to, and when there is an issue, then it becomes a mental health issue. So according to WHO, the mental health means it's a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her full potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So this is a very broader definition and very meaningful one, and it's not that long ago, in 2014. When it comes to mental health or mental illness, our Victorian health has developed a definition, and it refers to a range of cognitive, emotional, and behavioral disorders that interfere with the lives and productivity of individuals. So the cognition, emotion, and behavior. So cognition is thinking, emotion is feeling, and behavior is the act or how a person conducts. Now come to the human development. Every human being needs a safe and secure environment that they can call home. Besides providing shelter, home needs to be a place of both physical and emotional safety, where one can find comfort, protection, and security. The optimum development of a human being, primarily a child, depends on the interaction of positive environmental influences and inherent genetic predispositions starting even prenatally. So children, even at birth, are not blank states. They are born with a certain neurological makeup and a temperament. Yeah, so even very young babies differ in their temperament. For example, activity level, the amount. Okay, somebody still not on mute. Yeah, so even very young babies different temperament. Example, activity level, the amount and intensity of crying, ability to adapt to changes, and general mood, etc. So the development of a child's brain occurs within the first 6 years. As children get older, these individual differences become greater as they are affected by their experiences and environment. The culture, family, home, and community play an important role in children's development as they impact on child's experiences and opportunities. Cultural groups are likely to have a particular values, priorities, and practices in child rearing that will influence the children's development and learning of particular skills and behaviors. So the development of children from some cultural backgrounds will vary from traditional developmental norms. So development does not occur in a straight line or even evenly. Development progresses in a sequential manner. The path of development is somewhat predictable. There is variation in what is considered normal development. No two children develop in exactly the same way. So the pace of development is more rapid in the early years than at any other time in life, especially I said about the brain development happens in the first 6 years. So every area of development impacts on other areas. So the developmental delays in one area will impact on the child's ability to consolidate skills and progress to the next developmental stage. Most experts now agree that both nature and nurture interact to influence almost every significant aspect of a child's development. Children need stable, sensitive, loving, stimulating relationships and environments in order to reach their potential. So you can see a slide here. It's very interesting. Kids go where there is excitement, they stay where there is love. So children need stable and sensitive, loving, stimulating relationships. So children need at least one person in their life. This is another interesting picture I thought would share with you. They need good role models in their lives to guide them onto the right path to becoming a better person as an adult. So now I will talk a bit about what is child abuse and its impact on childhood and adult life. Negative experiences at a very early age have been shown to have long-term consequences for children, including changes in brain structure. This is according to Dr. Bruce Perry. He's a very pioneer in the world now. He's an American neuropsychiatrist. I had an opportunity to attend a one-day seminar of him in Melbourne a few years ago. He's a pioneer, and he has proved that the brain doesn't develop when there is trauma happening in a child's life, and he has proven with the brain mapping and the X-ray of brains, and he has found that the children who have actually had significant trauma in their life, their brain doesn't develop. You can Google Dr. Bruce Perry, and there are a lot of information available on web. And so these stressors are not just physical insults such as injury. Psychological or emotional ones are equally toxic for the process of growing up healthily. When the immediate environment in which a child lives or her home becomes a war zone with verbal and physical aggression, the suffering of the child is not limited to the point in time when it occurs, but has repercussions for the rest of her life. Children are particularly vulnerable to witnessing and experiencing violence, abuse, and neglectful circumstances. Abuse and neglect at the hands of those who are meant to care is particularly distressing and harmful for infants, children, and adolescents. An infant's primary drive is towards attachment, not safety. So they will accommodate to the parenting style they experience. They have no choice given their age and vulnerability. So the infants, children, and adults will adapt to frightening and overwhelming circumstances by the body's survival responses. Prolonged exposure to these circumstances can lead to toxic stress for a child, which changes the child's brain development, sensitizes the child to further stress, leads to heightened activity levels, and affects future learning and concentration. Most importantly, it impairs the child's ability to trust and relate to others. When children are traumatized, they find it very hard to regulate behavior and soothe or calm themselves. Traumatic memories are stored differently in the brain compared to everyday memories. Alcohol and drug abuse are the classic and usually most destructive attempts to numb out the pain and avoid these distressing and intrusive experiences. Children are particularly vulnerable to flashbacks at quiet times or at bedtimes, and will often avoid both by acting out at school or at bedtimes. They can experience severe sleep disruption, intrusive nightmares, and limits their capacity at school the next day. Adolescents will often stay up all night to avoid the nightmares and sleep in the safety of the daylight. Self-harming behaviors can become a habitual response. The cumulative harm can overwhelm the most resilient child, and particular attention needs to be given to understanding the complexity of the child's experience. Child maltreatment varies across continents and cultures. But the focus is on similar salient features, irrespective of cultures and continents. Firstly, it's an ill treatment. Ill treatment means it is opposite to nurturing. It's a potential to cause harm to the child, including threats to harm as well as neglect, which means failure to provide the basic necessities required for normal development. It usually involves parents or other people in the context of a relationship of responsibility, trust, or power. This includes teachers, religious leaders, etc. The exposure to witnessing violence, especially between parents. So the cultural values, the standards of care in a community, and poverty are important considerations in determining the presence of maltreatment and how it is addressed. So what are reasonable standards of discipline may change with time as well as between societies. The physical punishment, which was considered an aspect of appropriate parenting in days gone by, like the saying goes, spare the rod, spoil the child, is now widely seen as harsh or inappropriate. So the nonviolent approaches to disciplining children are the most commonly reported method in the world now. Harm or neglect of any child is unacceptable. It is the right of all children under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child to be protected from being hurt or being mistrusted, both in body and in mind. Further, the child maltreatment has long-lasting negative effects on children and adult survivors, including mental and physical health problems, diminished social functioning, and decreased life expectancy. Child abuse and neglect do not occur only as a result of extremely cruel or neglectful parents, but happen at one end of continuum of parenting behaviors that range from optimal parenting to severely abusive. Globally, there is a lack of reliable estimates of the prevalence of child maltreatment, especially for low and middle income countries. The most prevalence and incidence studies have been conducted in Western countries. Estimates vary widely depending on the country and the method used. Hence, comparisons between countries should be interpreted with caution. Increasing awareness among professionals and the public has resulted in greater reporting of abuse.
Excuse me, sir. Can I interrupt for a second? There is a request from the participants to slightly increase your volume.
From me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Is it too
Thank
low?
You, sir.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better. It's better, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so most estimates vary widely depending on the country and the methods used. Hence, comparisons between countries should be interpreted with caution. So the increasing awareness among professionals and the public has resulted in greater reporting of abuse. Approximately 40 million children globally are estimated to suffer abuse each year. This is according to the WHO. In 2001, it would have even increased now because it's 20 years or past now. So we don't have the latest data. So between 25% to 50% of children report having been physically abused. And it's still very prevalent in our country. Children are still being caned. Many are also victims of emotional abuse or neglect. And what is reported may only be the tip of the iceberg. There are approximately 31,000 homicide deaths per year of people younger than 15 years. Many children who die are classified as accidental deaths, like falls, burns, drownings, which may have been died due to maltreatment. The International Labour Organization reports that there are 250 million child laborers, which means 25 crores, aged 5 to 14 years in developing countries. 15 million children in India are bonded laborers working to pay off family debts. This is a report from the Human Rights Watch in 2001. Another 20 years passed, it should be much higher now. Approximately 1 million children are introduced to commercial sex exploitation worldwide. This is again in 2001. So for child survivors of maltreatment, the suffering happens not just at that point in time. The deleterious impact without adequate intervention lingers on for decades later into adulthood. Mental health. Can everyone mute, please? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. So the mental health and physical health problems occur during childhood as well as when they have grown up. Besides social problems, children who survive abuse or neglect are more likely to have cognitive difficulties affecting learning, language development, and academic achievement. They are more likely to develop antisocial behavior with subsequent delinquency and teenage pregnancy. Sorry. All of us, including, so I would like to now talk about COVID-19 and its impact on the mental health of youth and adults specifically. Makes sense due to the global pandemic caused by the coronavirus, COVID-19. Children, adolescents, youth have been at home with the schools being shut. This has increased the pressure on adults and parents, and including some parents or adults working from home. Their regular schedules have been disrupted with no clear idea of when they will be restored. Children and youth are confined to the home and in some situations may be separated from the parents because they are quarantined or their parents are quarantined. Children may experience a range of psychological issues such as anxiety, fear, worry, depression, difficulty sleeping, and loss of appetite. Social isolation may worsen the living situation of children in abusive environments as well as children with special needs. The economic hardships and the potential worsening of parental physical or psychological illnesses, including substance use disorders, may take a toll on all children and youth. There will be increased sibling rivalry and sibling fights. There will be increase in suicidal ideations and attempts of suicide. The education system took a shift from conventional pattern of virtual technological advancements. Innovation has brought hindrances for the underprivileged sections of the society. Majority of the Indian students don't have access to high quality internet connection required for virtual education. And they miss direct interaction with the teachers and friends. There is lack of interaction. The lack of interaction has a tremendous impact in the online education system. The slow learners face a bigger challenge with constant assignment and deadlines. The high amount of screen time is affecting the eyesight of the students. The absence of classroom interaction affecting the socialization skills of the students. The youth is lacking access to college activities, which is a source of socialization. Parents' invasion into the privacy of children, especially the youth these days, whereas they would have spent more time, outside the home. and there would be, there would be ideological differences, or even, religious imposition of parents onto the children. This all can result in a fight between parents and children, even between the youth and parents. And there are gender issues as well now. So there is challenges for females, especially both youth and parents. They will need to do more work at home, and then and balancing the domestic and academic life. The youth also miss playgrounds and extracurricular activities, and there is uncertainty about future, like not able to complete the course. The fear about not able to complete the course or even getting into a job. So there are a lot of anxiety and fear is into the youth now. So there can be issues with the quarantine, the home quarantines and institutional quarantines. So there is inadequate or confusing information regarding the pandemic. There will be a fear of infection, which is very, very, very common now all over the world. There's always frustration and boredom as well. There's a big stigma related to COVID-19, and especially the news coming in from India. And even in the educated state like Kerala, I have seen several instances where the health professionals have been attacked. People returning from quarantine to homes were not received at homes. I mean, I have been reading reports on a daily basis that there have been a significant stigma around like mental health, like mental illness, or in the past, people who were affected with HIV/AIDS. That kind of a stigma is surrounding with this new pandemic. And of course, there are financial difficulties. There is loss of jobs. There are a lot of people who have lost jobs, especially in the private sector, which in turn result in loss of pay. There's economic hardships that result in poverty, and etc. There is also a report from all across the world that there is an increased use of alcohol and substances to counter this isolation from this, resulting from pandemic. There is increased reports and instances of family violence, domestic violence at home, because people are bound home, especially, normally in the family violence situation. In majority of the cases, these are men who perpetrate, and they happen to stay at home, whereas in normal circumstances, they don't spend that much time like before. And of course, the last point is suicidality, and that's a big worry for everyone working in the social sector, that there are increased reports of suicide and suicidal attempts as a result of the pandemic. It's not just directly reporting from pandemic, but the people who are actually vulnerable or who have a genetic predisposition can trigger the suicidality. In fact, I have been actually helping a young girl who is from Kerala, who is doing a master's here, and she has been in a depressive episode, and she has got significant family history in 3 generations, and she has been in a significant major depressive episode, and she hasn't got any help or treatment due to lockdown, because we have a stage 4 lockdown in Melbourne and stage 3 in the rest of the state. So we have been in different places, and we have been doing online help to her, and getting her to a GP and start her on medication. She has been at significant risk of a suicide, in which some of us are working and helping her. I have been talking to her on a daily basis and giving support to her virtually through videos and stuff. Yeah. So suicide ideation for suicidality is a big resulting impact of this pandemic, especially among the adolescents and youth. So what we can do in this scenario, I mean, most of you are social work budding students, and some of you are practitioners, and some of you are also youth who are actually doing the course. So it can impact you both ways. As a youth, as as family members, but at the same time, you would be dealing with this as a professional. So what we can do in this situation, I have jotted down some points. Many people can handle the situation more constructively by being calm or learning to stay calm, by busying themselves with the simple daily activities, avoiding depressive or fear-inducing programs on television or social media, picking up early warning signs of those not traveling well. When we talk about early warning signs, if you notice among your family members or dear ones or your friends or in the community, like those who have less enthusiasm for study, not having a hobby or having any contact with friends, or socially withdrawn, or taking less care of appearance, which we talk about in mental health as lack of personal hygiene, forgetfulness, not able to concentrate, missing meals, because when someone has got a mental health issue, the biological functions are impacted, especially sleep and appetite, and sexual functions as well, and having unusual worries like you haven't noticed before, not being able to relax, obviously, as I said before, problems with sleep, becoming less talkative, socially withdrawn, feeling tense and irritable, and various aches and pains. So early warning signs can be sometimes vague and sometimes hardly noticeable. The important thing to notice is if these changes intensify or simply don't go away, and it is persisting for over a period of time, if it is more than 2 weeks, and the symptoms are present, then we need to be taking the warning sign. Sometimes experiencing behavioral and emotional changes, just a brief reaction to stressful events. But if it persists and pervasive, then they need help and intervention. So early warning signs can vary from person to person. Families often sense that something is not quite right with a child or an adult. Sometimes families don't even notice. It could be the others, the relatives and friends or the neighbors who would be noticing, or that he or she is not normal like before. Or talk to the parents or dear ones and friends when the early warning signs appear and when you notice. So it's always good to talk to the dear ones and seek early help, because most of the suicides are preventable, and we hear about even celebrities, attempting and committing suicide these days. Offer help to the family. So a good place to start is with a school or a college counselor, or an external counselor, or a general physician. I mean, in Western world we call GP general physician, but in the Indian context, it could be a general physician who can be, due to the stigma. And I would like to say that it's better to avoid referral to a spiritual healer or a traditional healer. It can even exacerbate and worsen the situation, or even taking to a psychiatrist for the first time, because there will be stigma surrounding it. So it would be better showing to a GP or going to a professional mental health worker, referring to a professional rather than traditional healers and stuff. For those whose issues are specific to COVID situation, children, youth, and adults are constantly exposed to information related to the pandemic in newspapers, TV, news channels, and social media. There are a lot of misinformation and that coming into the media. So it is important to make sure that we are having the right information. They may understandably have realistic and some exaggerated fears. They must not be provided unambiguous. They must be provided with unambiguous and clear information regarding the pandemic. So the aim is to actually reassure them and reduce exaggerated threat perception. The children and youth who wish to have access to information, or even adults, may be encouraged to look at reliable sites like the WHO, the Center for CDC in the US, or the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare Government of India, and the respective state government websites and sources. So when coming to the last point, the need for strengthening the social support system. Fortunately, the Indian culture, we have a good social support networking system compared to the West. We are very close-knit. We have extended families, we have neighborhood communities, we have relatives, we have friends. But in this scenario, everybody is isolated mostly to home. So how we can enhance that social support system within the family. So it's about increasing the family time. Family time can include games that parents may not have had time to play thus far. Cultivating or rediscovering the old habits, interests, and hobbies. Indoor leisure activities like tripping or playing indoor games like table tennis, cards. So this is an opportunity to reconnect with the family, like playing the board games, cards, caroms, even antakshari, um, and things like that. And people can innovate various things to. We have actually in our family we have 3 children, and three of them are teenagers, 18, 17, and 15. So a couple of them have actually picked the playing cards. So things like that. And then virtual contacts with extended family members and friends through telephone or digital means. Online forums such as people can think about. I'm sure if these things should be in place, at least among the educated group, but it is important. Like the presenter yesterday, Dr. Jayaprakash was talking about, looking at some projects. We can do some model projects. I'm sure NIMHANS and the Primary Institute have already started doing in the community. Like St. Joseph's College can look at having various, like neighborhood forums or even.
അതെന്തല്ല കിട്ടി കിട്ടി അയാള് പറയണ സംസാരിക്കണ കേക്കാൻ പറ്റണ്ടടി.
Kindly mute yourself. Okay, sir, let's start.
Okay. It looks like they're saying they can't hear me, or is it too low?
No, it's audible. For certain people, it is not audible. Maybe they have to increase the sound in their system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. 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 Like I was saying, maybe it's important to look at online forums at this stage, and we have been doing it here. I'm part of a. Okay. Yeah, an online forum where people are in different places, and we make sure we are meeting once in a week on a Sunday via Zoom, and have a chat and talk about things. So, we can do various things. Like I said here, like children's groups, youth groups, women's groups, men's groups, etc. I remember when I was working as a project manager in World Division in the Idiki district, and even those days, like we talk about organizing people's organizations. I mean, the same way we can look at online forums. Maybe once the restrictions ease, we can look at neighborhood community forums. Maybe the college can look at, or whoever is watching this and hearing this at various levels can look at forming local people support groups. And we already have this. It's in our culture. It's in our Indian culture that we have. I mean, maybe of late, due to the disintegration of the joint families becoming more nuclear, people are becoming very busy these days. But I think it is it's an occasion for us to reinvent and going back. One way COVID has become a leveler these days now, and going back to our old norms and getting more connected. So maybe it's a reminder for everyone that we are going back to our basics and our base. I just wanted to share one experiment that has happened in our state in Victoria. There's an online forum that allows, I don't know whether you can read that, but I can say there's an online platform that allows people to stay connected and express how they are feeling. Is improving actually their experience of the COVID-19 lockdown in Victoria, because we are in a very strict lockdown as compared to Kerala or in India, especially in the Victorian state. There has been a spike of cases in Melbourne, and there have been already 600 deaths, and I think went up to 700 cases per day, which is in comparison to the Kerala or Indian rate less, but it has been seen very seriously, and Melbourne is in lockdown 4, which I don't think any other parts of the world have experienced that. You cannot go out of the house. You can go out of the house only for buying essentials or buying medicines, not even for exercise. So that is stage level 4. And the rest of the state, I'm not in Melbourne, but I'm a bit away in a country town, but we are in stage 3. We can't go out of, we can go out of home for only for 3 reasons, including walking, but you can't go to anybody's house. So, I mean, we are not that limited in Kerala or in other parts of the in the country. So this is why so the participants in the virtual sessions are actually encouraged to share their feelings and challenges with others in the group. They are taught how to feel more comfortable sharing their challenges and the skills needed to listen to others. So you can look at that percentage, 25% reported a reduction in stress, which is good. 55% appreciated time alone and time with others more. So although we talk about a lot of screen time and reducing screen time, we are increasing screen time in this new normal. But the screen time and the modern methods of interactions are actually in a way helping us think about if this was not there, or 100 years ago when there was a pandemic, we don't have any of these facilities, would have been disastrous. So one way, a blessing in disguise, that online forums are actually helping us to some extent, but of course it has its impact on increased screen timing. I think it's important balancing that act, how we can minimize it. And I mean, we work from home. I'm also working from home. So a lot of screen time happening every day. I mean, apart from the 8 hours of work, plus, if we have to connect with others, and it's an extra. And 60% said they were more compassionate, and 75% said they appreciated technology more. Yeah, so that's a good thing, as I rightly said. Dr. Kavita, I think probably over time.
Yeah.
I think I'm almost finished. I think this would be the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to share this. So the 5 supportive things to support someone facing mental health challenges. The first one, I'm here to talk when you need someone to listen. This opens the door without pressurizing someone to share on the spot. Like we say in Australia, we ask people, are you okay? I mean, we wouldn't ask, I think you're not traveling well. Instead of saying that, we talk positively, are you okay? So that's one thing. And second thing, we haven't had a chance to have a fun together lately. See the way how they put it. When we speak, when we use the language, it's put it in a different way. Let's go. This shows that you still enjoy being with the person. And the other one, maybe we can walk side by side through this. Like we say, we shall overcome. We will overcome this. It's not going to stay. We will get over it. We will get through this. I mean, that kind of a language. You don't have to try to fix anything. Being there with someone is helpful in and of itself. And the fourth point is you are important to a lot of people. So that's what we would say. You are not alone. I mean, we are all there. Pardon?
The time is limited.
I'm just finishing. This is the last one. Yeah. And the last one is I believe in you. So I want to help you believe in yourself again too. And this helps build someone up without minimizing what they're going through. And this is the last one. I just thought I would share this. I got it from online. One day you will tell your story how you overcome what you're going through now, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a very informative session. Shall we open for the questions and discussions?
Yes,
yeah. So, yeah. So you can ask any doubts or clarifications. You can start your questions now. In fact, sir explained very well regarding the human development and the biological and environmental factors that are affecting the development of the persons and the impact of trauma on child's brain and the manifestations of trauma in children and adolescents, as well as the social problems faced by children and adolescents across the world, as well as the impact of COVID, the biological, psychological, and social spheres, as well as identifying early warnings of suicidality as well as depression and appropriate and timely referral, as well as way forward and how to stay safe and connected. So this is in brief on what Dr. Joshi had presented. So regarding the presentation or any doubts and clarification, let's now start discussing, and it's right time for you to ask questions to Dr. Joshi, and he has very rich experience. So let us try to get more information from him.
Because I had to omit a lot of information in relation to development and so due to the time constraint, because I had to limit to 30 minutes. And so if you ask questions and if there are anything that needs to clarify, I think that would be more interesting, more interactive session than more,
yes, exactly.
theoretical.
Yes.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, yes. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Alpa Dharamshi and I am a counselor in pain and palliative care. But during this pandemic, it has affected all generations at large, right? It's a humanitarian crisis. Huh? So we all agree with that. At the same time, I see that the children, the teenagers who are stuck at home with their parents and the family. So in Indian scenario, they are finding it very difficult. So as a counselor, we need to counsel even the parent as well as the children. So sir, what is your experience on this? Like it has to be two ways. We can't be only just concentrating on the young adults and asking them to adjust with the scenario, but even at the same time inform and have a talk with the parents as well.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we all need help. I mean, everyone needs help. I mean, me included. That we are going through an unprecedented situation in the world. Then we are confined to homes, and we need to seek help. Like I said, nobody is immune to mental health. Nobody is. Everybody can be vulnerable. Like what happens in this pandemic is a lot of the people are developing mental health issues just because of the pandemic, because there is which I haven't covered in this. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk about the human development, especially unfortunately in India, unlike in the Western world.
അതിന്റെ സ്ക്രീൻഷോട്ട് വല്ലതും ഉണ്ടോ ആ പിള്ളേരുടെ
Can you
പേരിന്റെ
please keep
ബ്രദറിനെ
muted? Hello, can you please keep muted? Yeah, continue, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to talk about the child abuse trauma, and sometimes trauma is normalized in our Indian context. And what happens is we talk about in mental health about the genetic predisposition and vulnerability. So genetic is actually when if somebody has got a mental health issue in the family, like 2-3 generations, like I was mentioning about a case I have been dealing with. So they are more riskier than for suicide or exacerbating. But there are people who are actually vulnerable, who actually had trauma in the childhood, and they are vulnerable to developing mental health issues later in adult life, triggered by issues such as this pandemic. This pandemic itself is a huge thing, and so that they can trigger And again, it depends on the threshold of that person, or how much was the intensity of the trauma or the cumulative harm that has occurred. So everyone needs. So the parents are not parents have been children before. They have had traumatic child issues in their childhood. So they would be having. So they need to seek help. They need to seek. They would help the family members to seek help. I think both of them is required. It's I think it's a cycle. Everyone needs at various
needs
levels.
help, but unfortunately our nation lacks in providing mental health to one and all. Actually, it's still
It is
considered as
stigmatized.
a stigma. Yes,
Absolutely.
very much
That's why
stigmatized.
in the beginning I talked about mental
Yes.
health. The
Yes,
word
yes,
mental health
yes.
itself is negative in India,
Yes,
whereas
yes.
it is not negative. Mental health means positive,
Positive
health.
attitude. Yes.
Yes. So we call it mental illness, and we ideally wouldn't want to call mental illness, because mental illness is actually for major mental illness. But there
Yes,
are a
yes.
vast majority in the community who have mental health difficulties, mental health challenges. We don't talk about mental illness here in the Western world. We talk mental health difficulties, mental health challenges, mental health issues. So if
Yes, yes.
I think more than 50% of the population would have some way or other suffering from some kind of anxiety, depression, panic attack. Very common. Unless in a major depressive episode, people don't seek help. So people just suffer, and a lot of the times they suffer for months, and then it's part of life now.
Yes.
But whereas in the Western world, they seek help, and everybody is aware, and their people are educated and aware. But so there is a lot of massive campaigns required in India. It has been happening, but it's a long way to go, especially during this pandemic time. And I think there is awareness. Some of the people who have actually gone through, like people like celebrities, like Deepika Padukone, she has come
Yes.
onto the media and said, "I have gone through depression," and then look at how Sushant Singh has ended his life, and we feel like it would have been prevented. Like every suicide can be prevented. Suicide is not impulsive. Very few cases it becomes. It's a planned one. It's in a depressive state, and there are enough early warning signs. But unfortunately, the family, society, and friends are not able to recognize
Recognize the symptoms. Yes. Signs
recognize
and
the symptom.
symptoms.
Yes, so we need to have a massive campaign about these early warning signs. That itself is a big area. How we can pick up early warning signs. What are the symptoms?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have two questions in the chat box. First from Rani. If a person had trauma and early childhood sexual abuse, what will be the intervention at present?
There are a lot of interventions in the West. I'm not sure about in India. I don't think it comes to the fore in the first place. Sexual abuse is a very secret. We talk about physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. These are the four forms of abuse, of child abuse. Sexual abuse is the least reported because people won't report, children won't report. Sometimes, not in our, sometimes they live with it forever. They will never ever report in their life. So there have been. So what we see in India is only the tip of the iceberg. There are only extreme cases. Those who go to child line have come into the fore, but otherwise people live with it. I mean, if they come out, there are therapies available. There are people are trained in India as well, because we are all trained in India in a Western way, like Dr. Kavita and myself, and a lot of mental health professionals who we have been trained in psychotherapy and working with the traumatized people. And I should say, sexual abuse is the severe most trauma anybody can endure. It will be there forever in their life. It is the most significant trauma somebody can endure. Earlier intervene, the better. But if it is late, I mean, they live with it. But there is help. But I think there are. I mean, it has to gain momentum, or it has to come to people. People need to be encouraged, to seek help, and we have a long way. Unfortunately, it's not happening. But I mean, we are all. I mean, most of we are all social workers, and they're working in the front line. Help them to seek help. I mean, we talk social work is about helping people to help themselves. So that's the motto of. So I think it's our role and responsibility to pick up and connect them and help people to seek help. And because there's seeking help is the best way to do this. And
yes. So we have another one question from Seema Sunny. Virtual counseling and counseling using masks becomes a barrier in counseling. How the mental health issues can be tackled through this kind of counseling? Any suggestion? So in the current scenario, yes, in the current scenario, virtual counseling is what is happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think even I wouldn't like an online or a virtual way, because when we say talk about mental health and we talk about mental status examination, how to assess a person's affect, and I mean we can see partly, and we see only the face, and we don't get the whole body language, or we don't get the real feelings in a virtual situation. But we have to live with it. Something is better than nothing. But yeah, it has got its limitations. But that's the way. That's the new order now. At least do the virtual, the video one, not the audio one, or the phone calls. But what else we can do? But we'll have a long and extensive work once the lockdowns are over. Once we embrace this new normal, there will be heat, there will be things piled up, and then we're all hoping to get there, to be between 1-to-1 and get back to it. But I don't have an answer for that.
Yes.
I would.
It's a need of the hour now.
Need of the. I mean, do more frequently, maybe probably. And see that at least you can see from the face, and if somebody is, you can see the affect. And they talk about their feelings and emotions.
And we have another question from Cicely James. Women in the home is mostly affected with the burden of children, spouse, and family members. Nobody take care of them. Is there any strategy to address their mental health?
I have a little bit touched in the one of the slides. I think the gender is there is a gender issue. India is a male-dominated society, and it's on to the women, whether it is the mother or the younger girls in the family, who have to look into the household chores and stuff. But sharing, and so it will be more onto them now. And I think it's about training the children from very early on. This is lacking in India, whereas, I mean, myself included, because being a male, and that's how we have been brought up, and we struggle these days now. But it's good that the newer generation is picking it up. So I think one way is to, that's another. I think that's another topic about how bringing up children, how the household chores, and how the roles are shared in households. But at this scenario, I think men sharing, it should be happening in the newer generation now, sharing, but I don't know, there is no answer for me for that either. Now, how do you suddenly, train people, and you can assert your positions now, being assertive and talking to them about it, talking to the children about it, and sharing it. Of course, they need to seek help, and in psychiatry, in mental health practice, it happens when we talk about historical conversion disorders. What happens is women, after a point of time, on the brink of explosion, they come out with the conversions, and that's the warning sign for the men that she has broken down. And we see they go to a lot of traditional healers, even faith healers, and and they try to do stuff, and they they get cured, and so that's a warning sign. But it doesn't have to take to that extent. I mean, they don't do it deliberately. It's a subconscious thing. I mean, they really feel it. But that, I think awareness is important when we work with the families, when we do family therapy. That's when you can talk to the other members of the family about That's one important thing we can focus in family therapies, because family. In fact, I think a lot of the social workers are not trained in doing family therapies unless you do a specialized training like MPhil or a PhD level. But I think it's also good that colleges take up and make sure that the students are given opportunities for specializing in some therapies, so that they are skilled. I mean, we need skilled people in India. I mean, we have the new Mental Health Act, which is the dictator to our act, very much similar to our act, and I have been gone through it, and I was thinking, how do we implement that in India? It's going to take decades, I think, to even come to that basic level of the case management and community case management and social workers being case managers or clinicians. And that's another topic altogether again. So I think if you start something, if you have a few colleges who are listening to this, they can take up projects like this, or at least I know some of the colleges do block placements in NIMHA, institutes like NIMHA. That can go some way into it, or maybe get some specialists, take some classes in MSW curriculum, or some therapies like the family therapy and stuff.
Okay. We have another question. Yeah. From your experience, for a person with a genetic predisposition of mental illness over past 2 generations, can they lead a normal life if they are placed in better environment?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's where the West has really advanced. And we don't see wandering lunatics in the past. We talk about, the chronic schizophrenics, even schizophrenic, the people with the schizophrenia, which has got a genetic basis, or major mental disorders like bipolar, and they all have, most of them have a genetic base. My PhD was actually on a comparison of schizophrenia and mood disorder. The caregiver burden and social support, that was my topic in schizophrenia and mood disorder. So I have seen it, more than 50% of them have got genetic basis. They can lead a life, provided we intervene early. Like I have omitted some of the information from this, like a lot of these major mental illnesses will have a early symptoms in their pre-morbid personality in their adolescence before actually they show in full course, like between 25 and 35, but they have a basis. Most of them start even before 14. Researchers have shown that. So if we intervene early during that time, but what happens is when it actually comes to an episode and treatment, it takes about 10 years. So although they talk about between 25 and 35, there's a 10 years lost in between. So if we involve with them with the right support, right family support, and right environment, they can function well. Whereas even in the West, actually nobody asks about family history these days. It's in India we ask about it. So whereas it is not here, we have the arranged marriage system there. And that's one of the reasons we have the stigma there, because otherwise the marriage wouldn't happen. Whereas in the Western world, who cares? There is nobody bothers about, somebody has got people are not finding a partner or loving each other, not because of the family history or what this person has got a mental illness or something. So that's a big difference between the Western world and the Indian context. So they can live the answer is they can very much live a normal life, especially even, like I said, someone with a major psychosis, even bipolar, they can live a very functional life. I mean, if they are taking the treatment, if they are complying to the medications, if they have right support, but everything is not, the life events are not 100% within our control, but we have to minimize, enhance social support system. They can very well live a normal life. Interestingly, this girl who I have been seeing in the last few weeks from Kerala, who is on a student visa, as I said before, she has got 3 generations mental. Grandmother committed suicide, father's brother's son committed suicide. Father has got now untreated depression, and she is the 3rd generation. And she was asking, will I be ever back to my normal? Will I be? And she's very ambitious. She's very smart. I told her I had to give a lot of reassurance. lot of support, and have been almost on a daily basis. I'm talking about for an hour and giving a reassurance. They need reassurance. They need validation that I will be okay. I mean, everybody's okay. So this is what is very much recorded in our culture, which is lacking. And that stigma, that minimizing the stigma, a lot of awareness is required. It's like any other illness, like diabetes or um, or yeah, any physical illnesses, and we take medication, and so they just tell them that yeah, it's part of it. I mean, we have no control on genetics, we have control only on environment. So always talk to the people that we have to accept what is cannot be changed, and embrace what we can do. So which is the social support, and that's what we're talking about: strengthening social support system and rediscovering our ethos, our values, our Indian values, and that connectedness. And we have various ways of therapies. We have the great yoga, meditation. This is embraced all over the world now. It's called mindfulness in the Western. But I tell them that it is a mix of yoga and meditation, which we have practiced for generations. I have actually learned yoga and practiced it. So yeah, these are some of the things we can rediscover and re-implement, but that doesn't mean we just have to go into, I mean, I have seen some of the policies coming into the new health policy talking about what is that, de-westernizing social work curriculum. I think we have to embrace both. I mean, just yoga and meditation wouldn't do, because case practice, case management is, we can do anywhere. We can do in India case management.
Yes.
So yeah, some of those things.
Yes. So do we have time for taking 2 more questions, organizers? Shall we take 2 more questions? Okay. So can you please share ways to control chronic suicide and depressive thoughts by self? As for them, interacting with family, friends, or anyone is a failure at certain circumstances. So
what was the first point? Say it again.
Yeah, ways to control chronic suicidal and depressive thoughts.
Where is to control?
Ways. What are the ways? Yes.
See, like I said, if it is a genetic predisposition, it's more riskier. So the first choice is medicine. If there is an intensive suicidal wishes, the first choice is medicine. We talk about biopsychosocial model. So the first is bio. And we talk about psychosocial. We talk about recovery here. We don't use the word rehabilitation anymore in the world. I think it's still used in India, but it's called recovery. So we talk about symptom recovery and personal recovery. So recovery is 2 parts. The symptom recovery is bio with the medicines, because if somebody is intensely suicidal, it's neurochemical changes occurring in the brain. So we need to control that neurochemical changes occurring in the brain with medications. We need to control. And sometimes in depression, we can't wait for 2 or 3 weeks for the drugs to act. In some cases, they would require ECTs. And there's a lot of misconceptions of the ECTs in the community about, the brain will be damaged. It's not. It's still the first choice of treatment in intense suicidal wishes. So I would say if there is intense suicidal, the first choice is medication. And then once they regain insight, give psychotherapies like CBT, cognitive restructuring, talk to them. There's no point in talking to someone who is intensely suicidal, any counseling or communication. Reach them ASAP to a doctor, which is psychiatrist in India. So medications is the first choice. And then we talk to them. I mean, depression usually lasts for about 6 months, and major depression can continue. Dysthymia can continue, ongoing. Yeah, did I answer that question? I think,
yes.
And that's how we do here. And I think it should be the same in India as well.
So we'll come to the last question.
Madam, before that, there is a request here. With your permission, let me request all the participants to switch on their video for we want to have the photograph sessions.
Okay.
So in between, you can do the discussion and clarifications. No issue.
Okay,
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have 2 more questions. Pregnant ladies also have fear of getting affected easily. and it can also affect their baby. How can we address such issues?
I was actually, my initial, I had a few slides about pregnant ladies as well, to how to, I mean, that's an area, yeah, I couldn't include because of the lack of time.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are issues. They will be, I think they would be the most vulnerable among the cohorts, who are impacted by this pandemic. Like they can be worried about whether I would get it, if I get the child would get it, if I go into labor into a hospital, whether I would get it there. I mean, now all over the world, the seeking medical help is also minimized now because of the fear that they would get. I mean, in some cases it happens, like places like in Kerala or in India. I mean, it has gone out of control. There is community transmission now, so it is an issue. They need to be given a lot of reassurance because that can impact on their mental health, which in turn can impact the prenatal, perinatal. We talk about infant mental health, the prenatal and perinatal mental health of the child. It can impact. I mean, like I said, the development starts right from the womb, right from the conception. The prenatal psychiatry, the infant psychiatry is a big one these days, especially in the Western world. I'm a member of a Australian Association of Indian Infant mental health thing. So I have attended quite a few conferences, and part of them, yeah, it has an impact. So they are one cohort that they really need attention, a lot of reassurance and validation that things will be okay. And of course, they need to be taking precautions. And if going by the protocols of the COVID, be it social distancing or wearing mask and the hand washing, and yeah, all that is to be followed.
Okay, we have another one question. Most of the youth are addicted to alcohol in lockdown. What are the measures to control their mind?
I don't think most of the youth will be addicted.
Not most.
Some of them.
Yeah, some.
Some of them. Again, it depends. Like people who have that predisposition. Again, I mean, alcoholism is also seen as one of the mental health issues that has got a genetic basis. There are researchers now that people who are vulnerable or people who have been drinking once in a week have started once in daily and stuff. So this another way. It's actually a coping mechanism. Like I think I mentioned in one of the developments that people who have undergone trauma, and this is one of the coping mechanisms. Now, when a mental health issue is triggered in the adult life, depending on them. Answer to it, again, seek help. I mean, if you pick up early warning signs again, like if somebody was drinking only once in a week, now started once in 3 days, or drinking on their own. So that's an indication. That's a early warning sign that they need treatment. They're getting dependent on it. Yeah, get them to a detox center. Yeah, and I think distracting, like I said, increasing family time and or contact with friends and talking to them, and yeah, that can. But people who are vulnerable and have that tendency is bound to. I don't think there will be significant increase in the world. There are no data suggesting. We are still too early, but it has increased. We had a program, and I was part of that. I was asked this question in a radio in Melbourne recently, that, and some of them Malayali, and it's a Malayalam radio, and some of them came into the picture and said that it has increased. I started drinking now daily because I lost job and things. But I would say there are still vulnerable people who, but I don't think they're a majority.
Yeah. So there is an announcement. Excuse me.
Yes, please continue.
There is an announcement. Dear participants, the feedback form is posted in the chat box. All are requested to fill and submit it without any fear.
Okay, thank you. So we'll come to the last question, I think. How to ensure empowerment in a social work perspective for client who has serious psychiatric issues such as schizophrenia?
Okay. Empowerment, I'm not sure that word is the right one
Right.
there. I think they need to know about their rights. They need to know that it is that they need to know what options they have, and what treatment interventions are available. Um, yeah, I think psychoeducation, we talk about psychoeducation. I know there may be students here who have been specializing in different areas, and I'm sure those who specialize in medical and psychiatry would be taught about, how to give a psychoeducation, how we educate, I mean, basically educate patients regarding, their rights, what needs to be done, and compliance with medications, the symptomatology. They need to know what the nature of their illness. They need to be clearly talked about. In our earlier days, we wouldn't talk in detail to them. I mean, we need to be open and honest with them. We need to be more realistic with them. Realistic expectations. We don't be raising their hope. Not giving unrealistic expectations, but asking them to have a good understanding and the need for medication and the need for other interventions that are wrapped up around them. I mean, yeah, it is empowerment, but I mean, not like, like you talk about the women empowerment or, the children's rights and empowerment. In an illness, it's more around educating them, making them aware about their rights and the options they have in life, and the options to lead a quality life. I mean, if we go back into the definition, having a fruitful life, a productive life. Everybody can have a productive life in their own ways. So nobody can be written off, or nobody can be dumped. Like we remember in the olden days, we were dumping people in asylums, or so that's gone. I mean, our new Mental Health Act talks about recovery. So remember this word recovery, not rehabilitation. We're not rehabilitating anyone now these days. We are helping them to reach recovery, and recovery includes psychosocial, re-establishing connections. There is something called relational recovery these days. That you can have relational problems, conflicts due to sickness. So there is an article on it, a new article that's come about relational recovery. So it's more, so it's about helping them to achieve a recovery state. So recovery doesn't mean that they can completely, get rid of the illness. It will be there. It will be part of them. But living with it and having a productive day. That is what is called recovery. Recovery from the symptoms, recovery from the illness state to a productive state.
So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful session, as well as answers for all the questions that has been asked.
One question, I think, madam.
Yeah, which one is that, sir?
Sir, can I ask?
Yeah, okay. Please continue.
My name is Sedu. I am from St. Joseph College. So I have a question. What are the new skills to be acquired by counselors for doing online counseling?
New skills, did you say?
New skills to be acquired by counselors for
doing online counseling.
Okay. I think whether it is online or direct, there is no difference really, because it's same counseling techniques you use. You ask the person to ventilate, debrief, and talk about what they are going through. It's just that, and giving reassurance, asking them to ventilate, giving them reassurance, validate them. So we talk in, I don't know, we use Dr. Kavita, I don't know, we use these words in India now.
Well, yes, we do use.
Yeah, in my days when we were.
We do use.
Oh, okay, it's good. So ventilation and reassurance to them, and psychoeducation. Talk about the life, what their aspirations are, what they are looking at, all that stuff, basically. So empathy, I mean, that goes without saying. Empathy, being compassionate, without any non-judgmental. I mean, these are all basic principles we talk about, non-judgmental. and no discrimination, irrespective of caste, creed. We have to transcend ourselves above all these things. We unfortunately we have a lot of issues in our culture about the caste, creed, and the religion, political ideology. All this has to go away. Like we have to transcend ourselves above all these things, and then accept the client. We don't use the word patient here. We say consumers here. So our clients, the moment we say patient, then we are detaching, and then we talk about the kind of our relationship with a client is like a guru-chala relationship, one step above. We cannot be one step above in our work with our clients. It has to be equal level. So it's called a level playing. Well, that which I have learned. I think probably I didn't practice that in India when I practiced in India, because I learned all this after coming to Western world, and which can be practiced in India. So it's about redesigning our approaches, our interventions, and I think the new act will pave way for that. I think there are changes. I heard. I haven't been there for last 13 years, but I keep updated about what's happening there. So I think, so these things can be trained as part of your curriculum. I think always, you have casework, irrespective of specializations, casework is nothing but working with the clients and coordination of resources and, working individually with the clients.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
So over to the organizers.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
May I ask you a quick question, please?
Yeah, one last question. Yeah, this is the last question. Yes, sir.
Okay. This is Jayanta Kolita from Assam. I want to know, sir, how can we learn the suicidal feelings of a person?
How can we get to know? How do you know the
suicidal feelings?
How can we learn suicidal feelings of a person?
Tendency
I have covered this in the slide. And what I can do is I can send the PDF file of this to the organizers. There are clear signs, the early warning signs written there. A few things in a couple of slides. So you can have a look at it. There are various signs you can look at if somebody is suicidal or not. Is that okay?
Thank you, sir. So over to the organizers. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful session, as well as answering almost all questions and in a very detailed manner. Over to organizers.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam and sir.
Thank you, Joshi sir and Kavita ma'am. And thank you for all participants for your cooperation. I request all the participants to turn on your video for a moment for capturing a photograph for the session. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
So we are moving towards the end of the session. I invite Mr. Josephine for delivering the vote of thanks.
As we all know that we are here to learn from the webinar presentation, I am here to propose vote of thanks to all of you on behalf of the Social Work Department of St. Joseph's College, Pilatra. First of all, let me thank Dr. Josie K. Thomas, Family Support Consultant at Southwest Healthcare Mental Health Services, Australia, for making a comprehensive presentation on the topic mental health challenges of adolescent and youth during COVID-19 and strengthening of social support. Sir, your presentation really enriched our knowledge base. Thank you very much, sir, for making it wonderful. I thank Dr. Kavita Manoj, Consultant, Kaval Project of National Institution of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore, for fruitfully moderating today's session and making her valuable observations on today's topic. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you.
I thank Dr. K.C. Muralidharan sir, our principal, for his presence, in this platform and encouraging us at all stages of the webinar series. Thank you, dear sir. Our HOD, Father Johnson Simiti, is always with us by providing guidance and necessary support to make this webinar fruitful. Thank you, dear Father. I also thank all the faculty members of the department for their relentless support and motivation rendered to us for the smooth conduct of the webinar series. Thank you all. It is the productive participation of all our participants who are here that made today's session a memorable one. I thank all participants from various disciplines and my fellow students to participate. With this, let me conclude. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. It is attendees like you that made today's session awesome. We'll bring attention to the session. Tomorrow is the third day of our webinar. We will have the sub-theme on mental health challenges of aged during the COVID-19 and the required psychological support. We all are expecting your esteemed presence tomorrow at sharp 6 p.m. Till then, take care and bye.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Josie
Thank
sir.
you.
And it was
thank you,
a
everyone.
wonderful session. Yeah. Kavita madam, also you have moderated
thank
it
you.
pretty well. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Actually, we really enjoyed both moderation as well as the presentation.
Okay, thank you very
really
much.
informative, useful, and there are a lot of takeaways from this session today.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Interaction session has gone a bit long. Really.
There were a lot of questions, and you very well explained.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josie. I'm happy to reply if somebody wants. You can send across and I can maybe reply via mail or something.
We will share.
Yeah.
Share with
we
us.
will do that. We'll share the PPT also, sir.
Yeah, I think I'll forward my my PPT to someone, maybe Cecily, and then you can share with everyone.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. What is the time, sir? There, midnight.
Yeah, I think it's 12 plus now.
Yeah.
It's we are 4.5 hours ahead.
Yeah. Here it is 7:49.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to give back to the where I come from. I had another presentation a few weeks ago for the school teachers in 3 districts: Wayanad, Kannur, and Kasaragod. And I think that's when the English medium, the school teachers. Yeah. I'm from Kasaragod district, so I know Kannur well. I'm a schoolmate of Cecily, and and she was my junior in MSW as well. So.
In Indore.
Happy to come. Maybe next time I can speak to the MSW students. I have been to a few colleges in Kerala and speaking. My friends are in Rajagiri and Trivandrum. The head HODs are my friends actually. And Marine College. I have been to quite a few colleges and individually go and talk to the students about the practice in Australia and India. So I'm happy to cross paths at some stage. Maybe I'll come and visit you.